Facebook CEO Mark Zuckerberg facing tough questions from legislators on Capitol Hill yesterday on Libra, data privacy, and much more.
Libra is going to be backed mostly by dollars, and I believe that it will extend America's financial leadership around the world, as well as our democratic values and oversight. But if America doesn't innovate, our financial leadership is not guaranteed.
Our next guest was there as part of the House Financial Services Committee. Let's welcome Congressman Lance Gooden of Texas. And Congressman, it's good to see you. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
What did you think of Mark Zuckerberg's testimony yesterday?
Well, let me start positively. I think Mark Zuckerberg's a nice guy. I think he was calm, cool, and collected in a sometimes hostile environment, and he overall did a good job considering. Now to the actual subject matter. This was supposed to be about cryptocurrency, and it was, but some of it was a general airing of grievances by members from both sides of the aisle. And at times it got a little out of hand, but I think members walked away from there not feeling a whole lot better with this cryptocurrency plan that Facebook has. But one thing I was encouraged about was Mr. Zuckerberg's decision or his statement that if U.S. regulators don't get on board, that they will pull out of the association. That was encouraging, but my message was if this is the future, if America needs to be on the front lines of innovation, then let's bring this home. Let's have this based in the United States.
What was his response to that point? Because we've heard that from other congressmen as well.
You know, it wasn't a total shutdown, but it wasn't an eager a stance to agree with me. I implored him to consider it, and I think he will consider it, but they seem to really be moving toward the direction of Switzerland, and I don't think members of the committee will get on board as long as that's the case.
Why do you think they've chose Switzerland? I mean, that struck me as being very odd from the very beginning.
You know, I asked that question. Some asked that question. One of the responses that he gave was that the companies that are headquartered there are international. It is, he didn't say the word neutral, but I think the thinking is it's just kind of a historic location for financial firms. A Democrat from California said, don't we have quite a few headquartered companies here in the United States? And I can't really get a great feel about why it's so important that they move this to Switzerland, why they wouldn't want the U.S. on board. And we're hearing things like we've got China competing against us. It's important that we are leaders in innovation. Well, let's be leaders from here in the USA. That's absolutely something that we could do. Protect the dollar, make this a patriotic project that everyone can get on board with.
Chairwoman Maxine Waters brought up the idea of breaking up Facebook again yesterday. What do you think about that, and what do you hear from people on both sides of the aisle there concerning that?
You know, that's something that Chairwoman Waters is really big on. Obviously, you're hearing things like that from presidential candidates like Elizabeth Warren. I don't particularly think that Republicans will be pushing for something like that. But I think Facebook has become a victim of their own successes. They're now dealing with problems that they had not imagined. Yesterday, my colleague from New York, Representative Ocasio-Cortez, was asking questions about their policy to permit ads that may or may not be factual. And she asked questions like if an ad is run in a district that targets minorities of a certain age and says that an election date is on the wrong date in an effort to convince people not to vote in an election and suppress turnout, is that allowed because it's a candidate running it? He didn't have answers for those. And I think it's just because they hadn't. Yeah, I think it's because they just haven't considered them. They're so big that they're dealing with things that they've never dealt with before. But to his credit, I think that his intentions are good. I think that it really does trouble him that Facebook has gotten a bad rap. And I think that Mark Zuckerberg is a great face of Facebook. And I think that.
But Congressman, what do you think the answer should be?
Make this right.
For example, on the issue that you just raised.
Okay, on the issue that I just raised, we can't get into that's a problem, and he said that particular issue is a problem. But then a follow-up question was, what if I run ads in someone else's district lying about a candidate? Is that okay because I'm a candidate? I think the answer is Facebook cannot police our political system. The United States Postal Services, they deliver a political mailing no matter what it says. You put a stamp on that thing, it doesn't have to be factual. So why does Facebook have to be the police of our elections? We could have a discussion all day, and we'd find ourselves talking about things that we don't really have answers for. Because at the same time,
would you be in favor of Mark Zuckerberg stopping you, for example, if you were to if you were to advertise the wrong date for the election, for example?
I would not be in favor of Mark Zuckerberg or anyone at Facebook policing me. If I tell a lie, which I would never do, the people are going to hear about it from my opponent. That's kind of how this system works. If Elizabeth Warren says something that Joe Biden doesn't think is true, he's going to call her out on it and let the people decide. But you do get into difficult situations like those that my colleague from New York was describing that I don't have a great answer for. And I think if you get into the business of policing political speech, then when does it stop?
What do you think the real movement in Washington is going to be on that? You have that opinion, but there are a lot of people who think that Facebook is playing a much bigger role at this point. I think Zuckerberg himself admitted that they are more than just a posting board. Where do you see this headed? Because this may be things that they haven't considered, but we are talking about being 3 years after the last election when they got a pretty big wake-up call.
Right. I think you will continue to see problems. I think there will continue to be unhappy parties. It's shocking to me that someone who I suspect his politics are pretty progressive, a group from Silicon Valley flies out to Washington and the Democrats are most hostile. That's because what I'm seeing is my colleagues across the aisle especially angry. But when I come back home to my conservative Republican district, my constituents don't like Facebook either for some of the same but perhaps different reasons. So they've got a lot of problems. I don't know the answer, but when you hear people like Maxine Waters saying, let's break up the company, and then you start to wonder why, if they've got these many issues, are they pursuing this cryptocurrency project? It just seems totally off base.
Right?
It's not, if the intention is to distract from other problems, I don't think that worked yesterday.
I don't know that that was the thought. I think they really wanted to do this project. But when you have both sides of the aisle, people on both sides of the aisle so angry. Look, do you think Facebook influenced the election last time around?
I don't know that Facebook influenced the election any more than anything else. Facebook is a tool that I used to influence voters in my district, in my campaign. But
did you buy fake ads, or did you buy what type of ads did you buy?
I ran ads encouraging people to come out and vote and telling people why I was the better candidate. And I think for the most part, that's what happens. But, you know, when you've got Russian bots running ads, which I think Facebook seems to be spending a lot of money on identifying issues such as that. But
do you want them identifying those? Do you want them identifying those bots?
Absolutely. Nefarious actors need to be identified. But I think you get into a difficult situation when you have actual declared candidates like myself, like Ms. Ocasio-Cortez, who then are being censored by Facebook. I don't want Facebook or their board or whoever's monitoring what I'm running to tell me that I can't run something because they disagree with it. Let's say that the gun control debate, there are beliefs on the one side that I don't share. Does that mean that they're liars because they're saying something that I don't believe is true? Using that argument, then Facebook shouldn't run their ads. So I think it gets difficult. And
what do you do, for example? There are people who write on Facebook that Sandy Hook never happened, that Parkland never happened, for example, that it's a hoax.
If that's a political candidate, should Facebook be policing that? The answer is I don't know. There were questions yesterday. Rashida Tlaib asked a question about armed men outside of mosques, people who are inciting hate speech. Does Facebook ever solve that problem? Do they ever get all of these people that are inciting hate and violence? Do they ever get all of them taken down? At what point does political speech mean that you're free to say whatever you're free to say? I don't know. I don't think that there is an answer to this question, but I also don't believe that either side of the aisle is ever going to be really happy with what they come up with.